Hello there, welcome to my channel. My name is Catherine and this is So Much Sewing. This video is all about the assembly line oversized shirt. This is it here. I've made it in a medium weight antiqued washed linen. If you would like to know how I found the pattern, whether I enjoyed making it up, if I like the finished garment, and if I think I'll make it again, then please stick around. I'd love to chat to you about it. So as you can see, I have made the wingtip version, the tuxedo version on this pattern. It comes with two standard collar options, a standard collar and we always used to call a granddad collar option, but you can also get an expansion pack, and that is what I purchased, and it's got a very exaggerated 1970s collar in it. It's got this tuxedo collar in it, and it's got a Peter Pan collar in it. Has it got another collar in it? Let me have a think about that. The other version is a very cool sort of like a granddad collar, but it's a tab. It's the granddad collar shape, but there's a tab and a button over here. I'll put images up, of course, to show you. So I really like this collar extension pack, and I'm hoping that it will work for some other shirt patterns as well. I don't know. I'm yet to test that out, but it certainly works for, let me tell you, the assembly line patterns it works for is the cap sleeve shirt pattern, the mock shirt pattern, and the shirt dress or the front pleat shirt. So it can fit on a variety of their patterns. So I think that's great, and it cost £4 for the expansion pack. So I think that's pretty good value. And I wanted to do this wing collar because I do like a shirt. I like the way a shirt fits and the way, I love an oversized shirt, but I'm not always keen on a standard collar. So I was really keen to get this extension pack, and I'm really glad that I did it. The shirt pattern itself comes in the size range extra small to 3XL, which I think is a pretty good size range. It can be a little bit tricky figuring out what size to make because it only gives you finished garment measurements. Well, in most places you look, it only gives you finished garment measurements. And so the finished garment measurements for an extra small are 113 centimeters at the bust, and for the 3XL at the bust, the finished garment measurement is 169 centimeters, which is pretty amazing. That's quite size inclusive. So I really think that's amazing. Assembly line, thank you for making such a size inclusive pattern. But as I say, it doesn't seem to tell you anywhere on the pattern or on the website when you first look what the actual body measurements are for the sizes, for their sizes. I did find a chart. It took a lot of searching, I have to say. I did eventually find this chart here, and I'll have to search for it again and put a link to it in the description or the comments box below, because this does actually give you the body measurements for their size range. So for the extra small, their chest size is 80 centimeters, and for the 3XL, it is 132 to 138 centimeters. So like I say, that's a pretty good size inclusive size band, but I feel like it could be, it would be nice if they had that information somewhere to hand that was a lot easier to find. It took me a long time to find this, which was a bit frustrating. But actually, incidentally, looking at this, I can see that obviously they have some patterns that go up to 4XL, even though this oversized shirt doesn't. So that's good to know, and there's the men's sizing there as well. I'll just take the shirt off so I can talk to you about it and show it to you in more detail. There's someone mowing their lawn in the background. It's we've had some really bad weather here in New Zealand. We're in the middle, we're at the end of our summer, and it's been a terrible summer. Today is gorgeous though, absolutely gorgeous. It's going to be 29 degrees. What that is in Fahrenheit, I'll put down below. But so, yeah, everyone's out. There's been people weed eating, mowing lawns, doing all sorts of things. I've got the windows open. It's warm already, so I hope the noise isn't too distracting. So let's carry on. Oh, by the way, I've just changed into my Reggie dress by Seamwork, which is made in a art gallery rayon. I do have a video mentioning that, which I'll find and link above and down below if you're interested in it. But to talk further about the assembly line oversized shirt, I ended up making a size L, the large. My body measurements, but my bust is 109 centimetres, my waist is about 95 centimetres at the moment, and my hips are about 118 maybe. And so the size large is for a bust of 100 to 104 centimetres and a waist of 87 to 93 centimetres and a hip of 111 to 115 centimetres. And that gives finished garment measurements of 130 centimetres at the bust and around the bottom 145 centimetres. So yeah, a little bit like Big Four patterns in that regard, is that they don't necessarily give you a lot of sort of sizing information. So you have to sort of really scratch your head and figure out which way you're going to go. What I did do was, because I feel like my waist is the largest part of me and I never like anything too firm fitting around my waist, what I did decide to do was grade from a size L at the bust out to an XL from basically under the arm out. And because I think I know better than the designer, I lengthened this shirt by how much? By that much. From there to there. I lengthened it that much. And what else did I do? Oh yeah, I graded it out, as I said, because I know better than the designer. As it turned out, I did end up taking off all that extra from between the large and the XL. I did end up taking all that out and taking it back to about a large. Not necessarily for fit reasons, but for other reasons, which I'll go through in a moment. But that was the right thing to do. So, I would say that once you have found that size chart that gives you body measurements, and you've got the finished garment measurements there, I would say, go with the size that matches your actual body measurements. Mine were a little bit larger than the size large, with the size large being a 100 to 104 around the bust, and I'm 109 around the bust. It was perfectly fine. So whatever it closely matches your body measurements from the size chart, like I say, once you find it, that's what I would go with. I think it's a really nice fit. So I did originally put pockets in this shirt, and I don't know why, but I had trouble with the pockets. The way they went in fine, but the finished look were baggy. The pocket, you could see the pocket lining, it was all saggy and baggy. It was poking out from the side seam. I really don't know what I did wrong. To be honest, I don't very often put side pockets in, inseam pockets, because they're obviously, around about sort of the lower belly level, high hip level. And that's the area that I do not like to emphasize. I like that to be, very drapey and skimmy. And so pockets, I find, often do sort of get a bit lumpy and bumpy in that area. And I don't need any help getting lumpy and bumpy in that part of my body. But I decided to do inseam pockets this time, and I did use a silk fabric that I had in my stash because I didn't want to use the thicker linen, thinking it would be too bulky. That, like I say, it didn't work out for me, so I don't know whether I did something wrong with the inseam pockets. I do them occasionally, and they usually work out okay, but I do know that not all inseam pockets are created equal, well, from my experience. So if I were to do inseam pockets in this pattern again, I would just have to drill down and to figure out where I went wrong, how I went wrong, and try and do better next time. So that's why I ended up taking off that extra from the large through to the extra large that I told you about earlier, because I had to take the pockets out, and while I was there I just went and took it in, and as I say, I took it back to around about the large, and it fits really, really nicely. So it's an oversized fit, obviously. It's called the Oversized Shirt. It has drop shoulders on it. It has a yoke and a yoke, and we've been used to sewing burrito method for the longest time, haven't we? And this is not the burrito method. It's the sort of old-fashioned way of just this is the inside of the shirt. It's the old-fashioned way of just turning that under and sewing it down. So I'm not amazingly happy. I mean, it's perfectly fine, isn't it? I mean, there's no drama there really, but I do prefer the burrito finishing method, I have to say. It's got a pleat on the back and a little hang hook, which I really, really like. It's a nice oversized drapey, of course, because it's called the Oversized Shirt, but I just really love it. Incidentally, I did also, after I had made it, I did take the shirt back to around about the original length on it as well. I lengthened it by the amount that I showed you, but when I put it on, the proportions were wrong. I don't know better than the designers. The proportions were wrong, and so I took it back to its original-ish length, and I do much, much prefer that. I did do something different with the sleeves. It does have a collar and cuff on it. Not a collar and cuff, a cuff and buttons on it, but I don't mind a button cuff, and I have made button cuffs before, but they're not my preference. So I did something a little bit different, and what I did, and this may be difficult for me to show you because the thread that I've used, oh, well, you can see that. I just used a whole bunch of different coloured threads that I had left over for my overlocker. They're not all the same, but I think it's worked out quite well. But so you can see what I did is I just took the sleeve pattern and I just made a facing for it, and quite a nice deep facing. You can see how big that is. Sorry, the lawnmower is going in the background over there. Because I wanted to be able to I like just quite a plain, unfussy sleeve, but I do like the idea of being able to roll this up as well. And so on the outside, I did top stitch, and then I also, you may not be able to see it, I did stitch it this end of the facing down. This end of the facing down, and so that just gives it a really nice, just makes it a little weightier there. And when I roll it up like this, I just like the way that looks. So that's the change I made to the sleeve there. I did the wing collar. I think I said earlier that I don't always like a proper proper collar on a shirt. I've got quite a short neck. I don't know. It's just something that I feel doesn't necessarily suit me that well. I do have shirts and have had shirts with collars on them, and you know, it's not really a big deal. But hey, I get to sew my own clothes, so I get to decide what design features I have and what I don't. So I chose the wing collar, the tuxedo collar, which was nice and simple to sew. It is very simple. I'll just show you the pattern piece. That's it there. There's nothing else to it. There's no collar stand to it. You sew that directly, that ends up your collar stand. You sew it directly to the collar of your shirt. So I say it was easy to sew and easy to attach and what have you, but I did, if you saw my last video, you'll know that I did make a bit of a mistake when I sewed it onto my garment. I sewed the collar onto the garment while this placket was folded out. And so obviously that didn't work. So I had to take it off and reattach it. I had worried that I was going to have stretched the collar out because I had to stretch it to fit it, you know, that extra bit of fabric there that wasn't supposed to be there. So I had to stretch it out and sort of really ease it in. So I did think I might have had to recut the collar, but no, it went on beautifully. It went on perfectly well. There and there. And I used these buttons that I had in my stash. Quite a while ago, I went down to Dunedin to visit my brother and sister-in-law, and while I was there, I went to a market, and I just bought a whole bunch of random buttons, little bags of buttons for $1 or $2. I just didn't know why I was buying these buttons. You know, some of them were, I mean, this was this sort of purpley color, there was green, there was some black, there was all sorts of different buttons, little baggies, and I was just lucky because I feel that these buttons are perfect. I mean, obviously they're not the same color as the fabric, but they're the same tone. I think they go really, really nicely. They're probably not the right size. They're a bit large. Let me tell you what the pattern calls for button size-wise. It calls for 1 centimetre buttons, and I think these are probably 1.6, I would say. So they are larger than the designer envisaged, but I think they work really, really, really well. When I made the shirt tail hem, is that showing you it's not showing you the shirt tail hem. There we go. You can't really see how curvy that is, but there is quite a curve on there. The pattern tells you to fold up the bottom edge and press it, and then fold it again and press it. So that's what I did originally when the shirt was longer, before I'd realized that it was really too long. I had made it, it was kind of about not even mid-calf, but what, you know, the proportions were not right for me for this shirt. And so when I had it at that length, I did do that, folded that, pressed it, folded it again and pressed it, and I sewed it down. But the hem was very, very wavy. It was very sort of lettucey shaped. And obviously I had stretched the linen as I was pressing it. I was pressing it very carefully, well, very, what's the word, maybe aggressively pressing. And so as I was pressing, I was not pressing like this, you know, putting the iron down and pressing it. I probably was doing a little bit of that, you know. But whatever happened, the hem ended up very wavy and lettucey, and I did not like the look of that at all. So when I took the extra off that I had added on, I cut that off, and then what I did is I just sewed around the bottom at 1 centimetre, and then I folded it over, and then I folded it over again and just worked my way around, making it, you know, by eye, making it look nice and even. And it wasn't until after I had sewn it down did I then press the hem. So yeah, just kind of worked it nice and, you know, just did it by eye really. And if I felt like I needed a little bit of a larger hem in places or a little bit of a shorter hem in places, that's what I did. So I have made this hem this way, and that worked out a lot better for me anyway. I'm not saying what they did was wrong. Obviously, they know what they're doing. But for me, turning it under and pressing, turning it under again and pressing just opened up the avenue for me to stretch the fabric. And I don't need any openings in that regard. I think I'm quite rough when it comes to pressing, and I have to actually work quite hard at not stretching fabric when I am, you know, doing this sort of thing. So that worked out a little bit better for me. My buttonholes worked out reasonably well. They're not perfect, and you can probably still see some chalk on the garment there. I've got a really great machine. I really love my Brother machine, but the buttonholes can sometimes be a bit inconsistent in that you can do 2 or 3 practice buttonholes, and then you come to do 2 or 3 on your garment, and by the time you get to the third one, it's gone, no, that's all the buttonholes you get out of me today, and they start going wonky. You know, it'll sew one side longer than the other, or it'll sew very short buttonholes. But in this case, they all were going pretty well, so I just kept going, and I did all 10 of them all at once. These ones I did vertically, and this one I did horizontally at the collar there. As per the instructions, it tells you how to position the buttons on your collars and on your cuffs in this little instruction here, which I thought was really great because, you know, if you don't do a lot of shirts, you might well position your buttonholes incorrectly. So I just thought that was really useful. So in general, I found the instructions perfectly fine. Yes, I did go wrong, as I said earlier, with the front placket, this one here, whether I didn't read the instructions properly or whether the instructions were clear, I don't really know. But I ended up, like I say, not sewing that down. I didn't really understand, and if I think back to it now, I didn't really understand what they were saying, and I just kind of went my own way. As it turned out, I was supposed to fold it under and stitch it down, but I thought they were telling me to do something different. But I think the instructions are pretty good. I don't necessarily think they're amazingly hand-holdy, but, you know, this is a great little additional tip. So overall, I think the instructions are fine. And, you know, I think probably most people will be able to follow them and construct themselves a lovely shirt. And I'm sure there's probably got to be sew-alongs out there anyway. I'm not the sort of person who would ever make a sew-along, but I'm sure other people have made sew-alongs. So yeah. So the question about whether I will make this again or not, the answer is yes, I'm going to, and I have got a plan to do it. Let me get the fabric and I'm going to tell you all about it. So actually, before I tell you about my plans for making it again, let me go back a step and let you know whether I enjoyed making this pattern or not. And I would say yes, I did find it very satisfying. I did go wrong with that front placket, and I forgot to tell you about the collar. No, that's right. So I did tell you about the collar, about how I stitched it on but had to take it off again because that front placket was sticking out. So I did have to unpick the collar and redo that. And I also had that issue with the lettuce hem, but they're not issues with the pattern itself necessarily. I might have got the instructions, might just not have read them correctly. And regarding the wavy hem, that was really my skill level or lack of. that made that issue. So I did have to go back and fix some things, and it did sort of feel like it was a 1 step forward and 2 step back, and that I had to really think about the next step about, and because I changed the cuff, it was like, okay, so I've done this part of the construction, now I'm going to work on the cuff. And I had to stop and think about how I was going to do that because I was changing the pattern. So they were my issues, but I really did enjoy putting it together, and I found it very satisfying. So yeah, I would recommend this pattern if you're looking for a lovely oversized shirt. I really did enjoy the process. And on to the next version that I'm going to make is I'm going to make it out of this fabric here, which I have had in my stash for quite some time, and I have been unsure what to make of it. I knew I wanted a pattern that wouldn't, a sewing pattern that wouldn't break up the pattern, the design on this fabric. Even if you look at sort of gathering it up a bit, it's just kind of loses itself. So I want something that's not got any gathering in it. And I think this shirt pattern will be great. This time I will lengthen it, but I will do it a little bit differently. While it is a shirt hem, it does have that side shirt hem side on it, there's not a lot of curve here, is what I'm trying to say. So what I will do is I will lengthen it a lot more than I did previously. I'll make it sort of the longest part of it in the front. I'll make it sit, you know, maybe sort of that much above my foot. But I'll make this curved bit here a lot more exaggerated. So there's a lot more flapping around, if that makes sense. And you'll see my leg through there, or my boots, knee-high boots, or whatever I've got underneath. I hope this is making sense. So this will be a lot longer, and the curve will be a lot more exaggerated. And of course, because the curve itself will be a lot longer, it won't be sewn together as far down, so there'll be a lot of movement. I hope I've made myself a little bit clear there. I really enjoy watching reviews, pattern reviews, and I really appreciate a good pattern review, but I'm fully aware that I'm pretty rubbish at doing pattern reviews, so I'm trying my best, but I guess I don't have that kind of, I don't know. I'm trying my best. So anyway, back to this. So yeah, it'll be a much longer, but it'll be very drapey, much drapier than the linen. There'll be the big side, basically side splits. I'm going to do that exaggerated 70s collar on it. I really like the idea of that big 70s collar on this fabric. And on the cuff, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Papercut Patterns Ashling cuff and put it on this shirt. Hopefully I'll be able to make it fit. I'm sure I will. And so what that has is that it has a tab that runs around here, and then a frill. So I just think that's going to be really, really cute. This fabric with the 70s collar and that frill sleeve on it, I'm starting that next. So I hope that turns out well. I'm pretty excited. This is a rayon or a viscose. It's kind of almost got a bit of a brushed feel to it. We are going into autumn, so I think it'll be fine for autumn, especially with something worn over the top of it. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. So that's the end of my little review about the oversized shirt by the assembly line. I apologise if it was a bit waffly and rambly and if it didn't give you some information that you needed. Like I say, I appreciate a good pattern review, but I am yet to master the skill of giving a good pattern review. But hopefully it was enough to pique your interest. If you've got any questions, please let me know. If you're on the fence about whether you should make this or not, I say go for it. Make this baby. She's a goodie. So yeah, there we go. Thanks for joining me today. I hope that you're getting lots of sewing done yourself. As always, I'm always really keen to find out what you're making and really keen for a chat. So hit me up. Let's have a chin wag. I'll see you again soon. Bye.